Hi everybody, and welcome back to my videos, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Rumble, whichever one you happen to be watching this on. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about more left-wing violence. So, apparently, another conservative, I guess podcaster or commentator, whatever he is, named Barneby Johnson, was receiving death threats against him and his family shortly after Charlie Kirk's assassination, essentially saying that they're going to do the same thing to him, basically, and his family. See, this right here is proving Charlie Kirk's point that he brought up, I believe back in, I think April was somebody mentioned, about assassination culture among the left. And I've seen people who were reacting to a Charlie Kirk's video, like celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination. They were talking about more violence, like make a suggestion implying, we also need to take out Trump and J.D. Vance. Well, actually, they said two others, so we know Trump being one of them. Maybe the second one was Elon Musk, because they have talked about his that before too. But nonetheless, whichever one it was that they met, this is nothing new. This has been going on, and for years, this has been normalized over the past, decade or so. Well, actually, over the past decade, ever since Trump's first term, really, ever since he was running for office for the 2016 election, people have been normalizing death threats against the president under the guise of freedom of speech. The mainstream media has normalized death threats against the president, especially President Trump. I mean, I wouldn't say it's completely normalized, because I'm pretty sure that if people were making death threats against Biden, then all of a sudden they speak out against political violence, and all of a sudden they speak out against it, it'd be wrong. But they are only for it if it's against Trump supporters, or Trump, or the next person who might, continue after Trump, whoever that may be. Okay, whomever that may be. And this is nothing new. I think the mainstream media and people on social media is trying to deny it. That there's video footage of people being violent. A group called Antifa. This is nothing new. I must have not been paying attention whenever they started denying that Antifa even exists, because I'm pretty sure when Antifa first came out, like around 2017, the mainstream media was essentially defending Antifa. Pretty much. That's basically defending them, calling them peaceful. They claimed that they were just protesters or something. I don't know. I think they was defending them, and I think they're only denying their existence now because they know that they can no longer deny. I mean, they know they can no longer justify Antifa's behavior. And I don't know when they started denying the existence of Antifa. But I guess as soon as they started doing crazy stuff, that they can no longer justify their behavior. So I guess they have to deny that their existence at all. So they went, and even people on social media, even people on Twitter, they can't seem to get their story straight. I've seen one post saying that, claiming that Antifa in 1935 fought against Nazi Germany, and Antifa today is fighting against the Trump administration, or that's basically what they were saying, what that post was saying, even if they didn't use those exact words. And then another post where really it replied to a comment, and a different post that says Antifa doesn't even exist. So apparently the left can't even get their story straight. But nonetheless, it speaks to the violence that's being celebrated among the left. You have, in 2024, July 2024, on July 13th, 2024, there was an attempt on Trump's life at Butler. About 2 months later, in September of 2024, there was a second attempt on Trump's life. Then, in October, I forget the exact date, there was a possible third attempt that was prevented because the guy was being suspicious. Okay, so yeah, possible third attempt prevented. Then after Trump won the 2024 election, people were making social media posts on TikTok and stuff, openly calling for Trump and his cabinet to be assassinated. Openly calling for violence against MAGA supporters, Trump supporters. Openly. Yeah, like right after Trump won in the 2024 election. Okay, that's what they were doing. Then they celebrated the assassination of a United Healthcare CEO. And then after that whole narrative about Elon Musk Nazi salute, supposed Nazi salute, shocker, that was not a Nazi salute. He was doing "My heart goes out to you." And there's also a double standard against that too. And if people were attacking, people were vandalizing Tesla properties and vandalizing Teslas, and I think there was even a bomb or something found at one place. At that time, I'm gonna have to verify that, around February-ish, somewhere around that area, maybe March, I forget which. And I forget exactly where it was at. I'm gonna have to double check that story. But nonetheless, people were vandalizing Teslas. They celebrated that. Then you had more shootings. Then you had more shootings, and they celebrated that. I think that was shooting in New York in July. A woman that they thought was a CEO was assassinated, and they celebrated her murder. Basically, again, Charlie Kirk was right about what he said, about what he posted on Twitter, well, X, whichever you want to call that, back in April. The left is promoting assassination culture. There is a rise of assassination culture around the left, going on in the left, and Charlie Kirk knew that it was eventually going to result in somebody's assassination. What he didn't know was it was unfortunately and sadly going to be his own. And they're still calling for it. And now Benny Johnson, I believe that's his name, is getting death threats against him and his family. That's how crazy these people are. There's already been some violence against ICE since that happened. In fact, I think violence has been on the rise ever since, seemed to be on the rise ever since Charlie Kirk's assassination. It seemed to be getting worse. Perhaps that was that ticking time bomb. Charlie's assassination, ironically, might have been the ticking time bomb that he was talking about back in April. Because he knew that it was going to result in something because of how the mainstream media celebrates and promotes violence. And then, sometimes, when something violent happens, the mainstream media tries to pin it on Trump supporters. They try to pin it on MAGA. Right off the bat, before any facts are out. Okay? Like the assassination of that Minnesota lawmaker. Is that Melissa Whitman? Is that what her name is? But nonetheless, there was no evidence that her assassination had anything to do with Trump or MAGA. There was no evidence that the shooter was even a Trump supporter. No evidence of any of that. Okay? At best, we could say the shooter's motive is unknown. At best. Okay? And actually, that shooter, who assassinated that lawmaker in Minnesota, that was actually more associated with Tim Walz than Donald Trump. But you don't see anybody pointing fingers at Tim Walz like immediately after it happened. Okay? Although Tim Walz isn't completely innocent himself. But that's a different video. I think Tim Walz said some questionable things too. But nonetheless, we don't know the motive of the guy who killed the Minnesota lawmaker. Okay? And people on the left are trying to use that as what about this? Trying to use it as an example as right-wing violent when the shooter's motive isn't even known, has never been proven. In that case, it's very strange. You had conflicting stories going on about him, and I lost track of that story. I don't know whatever became of that, if it's still under investigation or what. But last I heard, the guy's motive isn't even, we don't know his motive yet. There's no evidence that he's even associated with Trump. That was a narrative, never been proven. And then, when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, they tried to blame that on Trump too. Oh, that was a Trump supporter who did that. No, you don't see any right-wing rhetoric contributing to violence. You don't see anybody on the right celebrating and promoting violence. That is not happening. Only people who are doing that are on the left. Again, Benny Hinn has not Benny Hinn. Benny Johnson. Yeah. I guess I have Benny Hinn. I guess I have Benny Hinn on my mind today. For some reason, I don't know. But Benny Johnson. Too many Bennies in the world. Yeah, because I think Benny Hinn. Because that other Benny, that accidentally got said. I think he spelled his with a B-I in the N-Y instead of B-E in the N-Y. But nonetheless, Benny Johnson is receiving death threats. They plan to do the same thing to him like they did to Charlie. He's receiving death threats against him and his family. This is crazy, and people on the left are denying that it's happening. Okay, you would think that decent people on the left, decent people who are Democrats, who actually have morals, would stand up against this, violence that's been going on, instead of denying that it's even going on, instead of denying that it's happening or remaining silent about it. If they don't support this, they need to speak out against it, at least. You don't see that happening. You have people saying that Charlie Kirk deserved what he got. Okay, and people on the right are still experiencing threats ICE has been attacked a few couple of times since Charlie Kirk's assassination, and during one of those times, the shooter accidentally killed detainees whilst aiming for ICE. I mean, he must have been, because the guy had anti-ICE stuff carved in his bullets. Okay? And ICE is being painted as Trump's Gestapo. Trump is being painted as Hitler. And Trump supporters are being painted as Nazis and fascists and all that stuff. This is the kind of rhetoric that encourages violence. Because if Trump supporters are Nazis, that right there would justify a violent response in the eyes of the people who disagree with that. Okay? See, a difference of opinion does not make you a Nazi. But the problem is, see, the same people who are calling Trump supporters Nazis and anybody who they disagree with Nazis, they're also posting stuff on social media about how the only good Nazi is a dead one. Which I'm pretty sure that most of the original Nazis are gone by now. And if there's any still around, they're pushing 100 years old. So, there's that. Okay, so here's the thing. Whenever you make a post like that, the only good Nazi is a dead Nazi, while simultaneously referring to people you disagree with as Nazis, Trump supporters as Nazis, Trump as Hitler, the leader of the Nazis, then what this is doing is encouraging violence against Trump supporters. Okay? People were celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination, and some of them, the way that they were justifying it, the stuff that they accused him of doing or accused him of having, that's pretty much how they feel about all conservative Christians, especially those who are Trump supporters. Okay? If they celebrated Charlie Kirk's assassination, they would celebrate the assassination of any conservative Christian Trump supporter. In fact, maybe just any Trump supporter at all, regardless if they're Christians or not. That's how unhinged these people are. And I hope that the guy who had threatened to kill Benny Johnson has been caught, which I think that he has. I'm not really sure, but I hope that he has, if he hadn't already. And I hope he faces the criminal charges and the full consequences of the law. Okay, and I mean, people are celebrating violence, people are encouraging violence, and apparently there's an anti-Trump group or whatever that had a new song out called Kill the President. That's how crazy these people are. They're singing songs about it, probably under the guise of freedom of speech, but considering that Trump has already had 2 attempts on his life, that is something serious. That is something that cannot be ignored. So, yeah. That's it for this video. Bye.